Torah Or, Toldot, page 34, first column. Today's class is sponsored again by Avram Maradian for his father's yahrzeit, which is today. It's Fanya ben Michal. Shem should have an aliyah. Amen. Okay. Now the Rebbe was explaining the difference between Avram and Yitzchak. Avram is Momayla Lamata, from higher to lower. Yitzchak is Momata Lamayla. And that's, but each one has an advantage. And he says, Avram Avinu had achnos zorchim because his Aveda was, again, Momayla Lamata, bringing Elokus down. Yitzchak, one second. Yitzchak was digging wells. Yitzchak's Aveda is Momata Lamayla. And therefore, even though Avram Avinu dug wells, also, because it says in today's parsha that the wells Avram Avinu dug, the Plishtim stuffed up and Yitzchak redug them, is because, but that was a shaykhis to Klipa, and therefore the Plishtim were able to close them up. On the other hand, Yitzchak's not. So he says like this, therefore it says, the word Shema is in the same pasuk, with a vav, without a vav, yesam shach, nadam shach, and so on. Okay, what did you want? Okay. So,
the same thing with the Moshe and Aaron,
Moshe and Aaron is also the same thing. Moshe Rabbeinu is Torah, bringing Torah down. Aaron is lighting the menorah. Yeah, there's a lot of, because generally speaking, in serving Hashem, the Aved is either bringing Elokus into the world or elevating the world to Elokus, and then you have Yaakov Avinu, like we said yesterday, is Midas said to Emes, that it's a combination of both things together. Okay, so he says now, by Avram, Kachnos bin Chasher Haftas Yitzchak. Take your only son, Yechidcha Haftas Yitzchak. Kedua, what is, so L'chera, Avram Avinu, what's he doing now to Yitzchak? Kedua, Tevelov, Ahepech, the nature is to, Lahav Ahepech, the nature of something is to love what they don't have. Usually people are attracted by something they don't have because somebody, if you have it, then you don't love it because you really have it already. What is it? One second. Like it says, Mayim kodim al nefesh hayefa, cold water on a tired soul. A person who's very cold wants hot water. If you're hot, you want cold. If you're cold, you want hot. Okay, why can't you want what you want, what you have? Therefore, Avram Avinu's Aveda primarily was Momayla Lamata Lekachnos Sorchim, wanted also Hepach, the level of Yitzchak, Mimayta Lamayla. So he also wanted what he didn't have. In other words, because of Avram Avinu served Hashem in a way of Momayla Lamata from higher to lower, so he wanted the opposite level also, because he didn't have that. What he didn't have, he wants. Which is the level of Yira and Bittul. L'chein zeh Avram efsher sheyimshech Avram lamata b'chinas pachad Yitzchak shebechinas Bittul kazeh efsher l'nevroim l'kabel. Okay, so he says he wanted to bring down the level of fear of Hashem, which is an impossible level for a Jew to reach normally, because that level of bittul would make you non-exist. It's ultimate bittul. Kigam l'mayla, even in l'mayla. It says, Heishet HaKadosh Baruch Hu Tzboi Ketana Beineim. There's a malachim, and Hashem stuck his little finger, kaviyachol. I shall explain in a second what that means. Hashem stuck his little finger between them, and they all got burnt. What does that mean? There's a level of malachim which is a revelation of Elokus. But then the small finger of Hashem represents a very minimal, like the small finger of a person is minimal. It's the minimal level of Elokus that revealed. The problem is, if a tremendously great level of Elokus comes down here, the world will explode, so to speak. They can't handle it. So Avram wanted to bring down a level that the world can't handle. Therefore it says, it's interesting. The pasuk says, when you learn this Kabbalistic meaning of the Pesukim, it's so much deeper. Pasuk says like this, what did Avraham Avinu do? V'yakir is Yitzchak b'nei, he bound up. Okay, that means actually bound up. Yitzchak, his son, on top of the Eitzim. What do you mean Eitzim? At the beginning of Chumash, you have Eitz Hadas and Eitz HaChaim. Spiritually speaking, he bound up Yitzchak higher than the level of Eitz Hadas and Eitz HaChaim. Sham Yuchel is Galus Pchinas Pachad Yitzchak. Then, because he elevated it to such an extent, the world was able to handle it. In other words, even though Avraham Avinu was Momayla Lamata, but Avraham Avinu wanted the level Milmata Lamayla, because like we said, he didn't have that level. That's what he wanted. But by doing that, he was able to make the world a vessel that should be able to handle that great level of Elokus. But Amnam B'Yaakov Siv, but by Yaakov, the pasuk says, "Upachad Yitzchak koyeli." The fear of Yitzchak I had. Why? What's Yaakov Avinu? Yaakov b'chor b'chir sheba'avis. Yaakov Avinu, we know Chazal tell us from the three, Yaakov Avinu was the chosen of the three Avis. Why? Because he was iskalus mavriach min hakotza. Meaning like this: Avram, we learned, is momayla lamata. Yitzchak is momata lamayla, right? What's the level of Yaakov? Titin emes liYaakov. Emes is the combination of both the things together. If you're in one kav, if you're in one line, it's not emes because then you don't have the second one. If you have right, that's not emes because then you don't have left. But if you have left, you don't have right, it's also not emes. Where's emes? When you combine right and left together. Therefore, we find, like we learned many times, the boards of the Mishkan, what held the boards together? So they had the loops, and then they had a board on top, then a board on the bottom, right? The pole that went through holding the boards together. But that only held this wall. Now, how did it connect to this wall? And again, to that wall. So the pasuk says, "B'riach hatichem mavriach min teicha mavriach min hakotza lakotza." In the poles, okay, so you had, here was a loop with the pole going through the bottom, but the b'riach hatichem was in middle of the keresh, in middle of the board, and this middle pole, miraculously, when it came to the end of the wall, turned, went through the next wall, and turned and went through the third wall, because the Mishkan had three walls.
Wood. What?
Wood. In fact, according to the Medrash, one opinion of Medrash, that was the stick of Yaakov Avinu. The stick that Moshe Rabbeinu did the miracles with and all that, that mata. It's an opinion of Medrash that says that was the B'riach HaTichon that went from the beginning all the way around. So in other words, what's that level? That's Titan Emes Yaakov. The level of Yaakov goes from the beginning through the middle, through the end. Because if it's partial, it's not emes. And therefore we learn many times, emes is aleph, mem, saf. Aleph is the first letter of the aleph base, mem is the middle letter, saf is the last letter of the aleph base. What's the definition of emes? It goes from the beginning, through the middle, all the way to the end. And therefore it's interesting also, everything in Lashon Kodesh is holy. Aleph, the letter aleph has two legs, mem has a whole base, and saf also has two legs. If you look at the word sheker, so shintak has a base, kuf has one leg, resh is one leg. So it says in the Zohar, if you want to lie, start off with a little bit of truth. Therefore there's expression in Gemara that says sheker ein lo raglayim. It might even be a pasuk. Sheker ein lo raglayim, that falseness has no feet, because it does nothing to stand on. Emes, on the other hand, is beginning through the middle to the end. And therefore we said even more is brought down in Sfarim, that Emes numerically is 441. Aleph Mem Saf is 441. 4, 4, and 1 together equals 9. In math, so to speak, the only true number is 9. Why is it only the true number is 9? Because any multiple of 9 equals 9. 19 to 2 is 18, 1 and 8 is 9. 27, 36, 45. Any multiple of 9? You never know that? Live and learn. Any multiple of 9 equals 9. Why? Because the Rabbi has an expression. Ha'emes maskim la'atzmei mikol tzad. Emes agrees to itself from every angle. Any way you look at a 9, it equals 9. Because it's emes. So that's the level of Yaakov Avinu. So Yaakov Avinu, because it's emes, it's a combination actually of momayla lamata, momata lamayla. Because if you only have higher to lower, that means you don't have lower to higher, so it can't be emes. If you have lower to higher, you don't have higher to lower, so it's not emes. So it's not real. So therefore, what's the level of Yaakov Avinu? Yaakov Avinu's level of B'nei Titin emes liyakev, the level of Tiferes, which is a combination of Chesed and Gvur together. So he says, "V'nei la'os lavi yitzchsiv ki ata Avinu." It says la'os lavi Yitzchak is going to be called Avinu. Why? Ki ata yevshe shepachad Yitzchak b'yeh b'chinas Avinu she'amshach lamata. Avinu means a father by definition. If he's a father, that means he brings down a child. He creates a child. Now this level of Pachad Yitzchak, which is completely Mamata Lamaila, doesn't have that level of Avinu. Aval also level and be Bilam of Netzach. Death will be swallowed up eternally. Vesruch Hatoma Avaz Yisgalu. This level of Pinas Pachad Yitzchak Lamada, then it'll be Avinu, then that level will have Hamshachat down here also. So the Alter Rebbe is explaining the difference of Aveda between Avram and Yitzchak, because like he started the mind with the pasuk Smei L'Tachas Reishi, left V'Yimini T'Chapageni. So he explains the whole mind is so far, it's almost done, but the mind is explaining the level of Avram Avinu, the level of Yitzchak. Why? In fact, this is another interesting thing at the beginning of the parsha. We didn't say it last night, but at the beginning of the parsha, when it says Eila Toldos Avram, Eila Toldos Yitzchak ben Avram, Avram Holidas Yitzchak. Okay, so Rashi asks the question. Everybody asks the question. What's the redundancy? If it says Yitzchak ben Avram, so obviously Avram gave birth to Yitzchak. Why does it have to say both things? Yitzchak was the son of Avram, and Avram gave birth to Yitzchak. So Rashi says that because everybody was making fun, they said, look, Avram was married to Sarah so many years she didn't have kids. She was taken prisoner to Avimelech. All of a sudden she got pregnant. So everybody was saying maybe she's pregnant from Avimelech. So what did Hashem do? He made Avram and Yitzchak look identical. That everybody obviously said, who's the father? Not the milkman, but Avram Avinu. Yeah? But Chassidus explains it deeper. There's Yitzchak's Aveda and there's Avram's Aveda. There's a Yitzchak ben Avram and Avram Helidas Yitzchak. There is the combination of Chesed and Gvura, Momata Lamayla, Momayla Lamata. There's Eila Toldos Yitzchak ben Avraham, and there's Avram Helidas Yitzchak. Because in Kedusha, even though Avram is Chesed and Yitzchak is Gvura, but each one is composed of the others. So Avram has a level of Yitzchak, and Yitzchak has a level of Avram. Because in Kedusha, there's a unity between all the levels. And Yaakov is the middle, right? What? Colored sticks. In Parshas Vayetze, Yaakov spent a lot of time playing around with colored sticks. Yeah? So in Kabbalah it says, Chassidus brings it down, that Yaakov playing with the colored sticks was like the level of tefillin. How did Yaakov Avinu put on tefillin? He put on tefillin by playing with the colored sticks. He did it spiritually, not physically. He didn't have physical tefillin. He did it spiritually, right? So Yaakov Avinu playing around with the colored sticks. So what colored sticks? So last day we discussed, by the class, that there's Aved of Avram Achnos Sarchim, which is Mamayla Lamata. Yitzchak is digging wells, which is bringing the water up. And then you have a combination of the two colored sticks. Multicolored sticks is the level of Tiferes. which is a combination of chesed and gvura. What? So is digging wells. Digging wells is also. You dig a well, the water comes up. What?
Here by passing he's mentioning two levels of two levels. It's like,
Correct.
but he's not. I know.
This primary level of Avram Avinu is Mamayla Lamata, but Yaakov Avinu in Kedusha, there's a Hiskalus. So there's a level of Avram Avinu having Gvura.
Yeah, what I want to ask is, like comes to mentioning two levels of Tveres.
Because this Maim is only talking about Avram and Yitzchak. He's Derech Agav mentioning the level of Yaakov. By the way, there's no two levels. Yeah, in Tiferes, there's... Okay, let's give it a mashal that everybody will understand. I'll give you a mashal everybody will understand. You have vanilla ice cream, yes, and you have chocolate ice cream, and then one second, and then you have strawberry ice cream. They have Neapolitan, which is all three together. Yes? Everybody now know what I'm talking about? Okay. Now, if you don't believe me, go and buy them and taste them. When you have vanilla by itself, it's a much stronger vanilla taste than when it's Neapolitan, the vanilla in Neapolitan. And the chocolate plain is a much, this everybody understands, including me. I really understand this. So, you have chocolate, so why? It's vanilla, chocolate. Why is there a difference in the taste between true blue vanilla or Neapolitan vanilla? Because it's still mixed with the others. So when there's a blend, it's not the same. So yes, Yaakov Avinu was a combination of Chesed and Gvura, which is Tiferes. But you know what? The Chesed of Avram is more than the Chesed of Tiferes, and Gvura is more than the Gvura of Tiferes. But Yaakov Avinu, by the way, because in Kedusha, there's Chesed Shebet Tiferes too. By Sfir Se'emer, we say Chesed Shebet Tiferes, Gvura Shebet Tiferes. If Tiferes is a combination of Chesed and Gvura, so what do you mean Chesed Shebet Tiferes? Tiferes is a combination of both. But there's an aspect of Chesed by itself, which is more than the Chesed of Tiferes. The vanilla, everybody gets it? Good.
Well, it's not easy to be prepared. Emet, it's not easy.
MS?
One olive from Emet.
Is mess.
One tiny Emet must be real Emet.
There's a story, I don't remember which great tzaddik it was with. Maybe the Mami Prat, I don't remember exactly. There was a guy killed somebody, like in these Pesach blood libels, you know. They killed somebody, and they blamed the Jews for it. And there was no way of getting out of it. So this great tzaddik put on the corpse's forehead the letter emet, the word emes. And the kid got up in court, the dead body got up in court and testified that this guy did it to me, the guy. And then the tzaddik took off the letter aleph, and it became mes, and he died again. In other words, emes, notice I'm not saying it, my own things now, it says, emes is when there's an aleph, alufe shalal elam, when there's the Eibishter at the beginning of emes, then it's emes. If you take out Hashem from emes, it's mace, then it's dead. It has no kiyum. Emes is only when it begins with aleph, the Eibishter, alufe shalal elam. Okay, weiter. Like it says, there's going to be the revelation of course, in the crack of the rocks, or in the different ledges of the ridges of the Sloim, B'mnei Pachad Hashem. She is Gala, B'chinas Pachad U'Bittul Lamata, in a way, V'ro Kol. Okay, so now he says like this. V'zel Eile told this Yitzchak ben Avram, Avram Eile this Yitzchak. Okay, so the pasuk says twice Avram and twice Yitzchak. Elu told this Yitzchak ben Avram, Avram Hailu this Yitzchak. He says, Kenei dami mashal gashmi. Shazoch yuchol azriya b'mli nekeva. A male can produce seed without a female, but a female can produce seed. Hagam shama isha mezras tchila. Even though, what do you mean a woman can produce seed? The Gemara says, isha mezras tchila. If a woman gives the seed first, you create a boy. And if the man gives the seed first, you create a girl. He says, Gamkin is Seiris Hatchad, with the awakening of the male, Tuchla Nukval Azriya Techila. Even afterwards, the woman carries the baby, but he says, the Gemara says, the primary birth is from the male, which is Levim Mevarid Avladius Pselis Yetzel Chutz, that the waste of this whole pregnancy goes out, and from the bir nasa vlad. So he said, "Kamei kein lemaila, she is sava b'chinas yitzchok mimata lemaila, sheba emes ein arech klal lev klal." He's saying like this: how is it possible to have the level of fear of Yitzchok mimata lemaila? How can a person through his aveda down here reach infinite alukus? In other words, the question is very simple. How could a finite, Yitzchok's Aveda is Mamata Lamaila, right? From lower to higher. How in the world is it possible that a finite creation down here can reach the infinite Hashem? He said that's why it has to be Ben Avram. Through the revelation that Hashem gives him above. I'll explain in a second. In other words, we learned many times like this. How is it possible, or like we remember if we learned in the famous Maim Adam Ki Yaakov, yeah? Adam Ki Yaakov Mikem, how is it possible for a person to come closer to Hashem? So we learned in the Maim because it says first Vayikra El Moshe. Every avodah that a Jew does, how in the world can a human being reach a level of godliness? And the answer is because it comes with the help from above. Vayikra el Moshe, Hashem calls, meaning reveals himself to Moshe, to the Jew. That gives the ability that Adam Ki Yaakov, that the person will want to become closer to Hashem. So in other words, how is it possible to have the avodah of Yitzchak, Momata Lamaila, that a Jew should reach lower to higher, the infinite level of Elokus? The only way of that is because Avram Hailid is Yitzchak. In other words, the pasuk is saying like this: how is it possible to have the level of Yitzchak? Because Avram Hailid is Yitzchak. Now, no, the he gives, the ability that Hashem gives us Momaila Lamata to be able to go Mamata Lamaila to serve Hashem. A Jew can't do this on his own. Even you have a neshama, the neshama is bound in the body. Where does a Jew out of the clear blue get the ability to all of a sudden become close to Hashem? And it's the same thing what it says in other places. There's every day a baskol coming out from heaven. It says Jews do tshuva. Right? Shivu banu shevim, return the wild children, return to Hashem. So there's a baskol that comes out from Archaik, right? Or in Pirkei it says, Eila mebis malbeinu shel Torah. Woe is the people that shame Torah. You hear the baskol? I don't hear it. They never heard it. So what's the purpose of a baskol if nobody hears it? So Chassidus explains, the neshama hears it. The body doesn't hear it. But the neshama hears the baskol that comes out from heaven and says, do tshuva. And Chassidus explains, that's what causes that sometimes even out of the clear blue, a guy's not even doing anything spiritual. All of a sudden he decides, I should become a little bit better. Where does that come from? That, one second, that is the Gilui Milmaila. The baskol with a voice is, an echo. A baskol means it's a revelation from above. There are different levels of baskol, of revelations from above. There's nevuah, and even nevuah, you have Moshe Rabbeinu's level of nevuah and everybody else's level of nevuah. Then you have the level of baskol, which is only a daughter of a voice, meaning it's a lower level. And then you have the level of Ruach HaKodesh, divine inspiration. These are all giluyim from above. These are all revelations from above. This level of a baskol means it's a revelation from above. we don't hear it, the neshama does hear it, and therefore the neshama can get turned on from that gilui malmaila lamata, that the neshama should wake up and to decide to become better.
Not everyone reacts. It's similar to
Nobody acts the same way because everybody is different. How in the world can everybody react the same way if no two people are equal?
What is the difference between somebody who hears, what is his zechut versus somebody who doesn't hear?
Right.
I mean, where did he get the zechut to all of a sudden hear the get affected by backward as opposed to somebody who doesn't? What is the difference?
Why this neshama gets and this neshama doesn't hear it? That you have to ask David. You have to ask Hashem. But it could be, maybe this person did certain things. He became a keli for it. You know, there's a famous Gemara in Seder. They were sitting, Gemara tells two stories. They were sitting in an attic, great tzaddikim. And they said there's a person in this amongst you that's ready, fit to have Ruach HaKodesh. Yeah? But the generations are not worthy of it. And they all looked at Hillel, and they said Hillel's the guy that the Bas meant. And then again they were sitting, and again the same thing happened. Somebody is fit to have the Ruach HaKodesh, but whatever the expression is over there. But the generation is not fit for it. And they looked at Shmuel HaKatan. Shmuel HaKatan was part of Rabbi Gamliel's Bezdin. Shmuel HaKatan was the one that made up the Bracha V'Lam Oshinim. That Rabbi Gamliel told him to make the 19th Bracha. So it could be sometimes the person, for whatever reason it is, did something out of the ordinary that he merited to have this baskol, the neshama should feel it.
So it is from the person.
Ask the Eibishter. Maybe not. I'm saying that's the way Hashem works. Why does this person have money and this person doesn't? Why does this person have brains and this person doesn't? Why is it that when you become God, next time you meet him, ask him.
Rabbi, you see some inequity and injustice somehow.
Yeah, you think so.
No, I see that. I mean, it's obvious.
Obvious, one second.
If somebody is predisposed to
Obvious to whom?
closer to God, if somebody is predisposed to have more listening ear, and therefore he can elevate himself, he's endowed from the beginning with the better chances of getting close to God. And some people are somehow deaf, not because that's the way God created them, as Avraham was alluding to.
Now, if a person, we mentioned this last night also, and you were on the class, just because Esav was born with the personality seemingly of being a Rasha, that didn't justify him being a Rasha.
Correct.
Because you can overcome it.
Yes.
In other words, Esav, and that's why, like we mentioned, the Rambam Shmeina Prakim, we mentioned all this last night in the class for a long time. There's a Chassid HaMu'ula, that means he's born basically a good guy. And then you have the guy Akevish Yitzrei. Now, a person who has a stronger Yetzer Hara, he has a worse disposition, let's say, that person is given power that this great chassid doesn't have.
Great chance, great merit.
No, he has the ability.
Potential merit.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, in other words, like this good guy with the good disposition, it's late. The guy with the good disposition, what's expected from him is the best he could do. This guy was a lesser disposition, not so great. What Hashem wants from him is the best he could do. You can't measure people. You can't compare people. Because comparing people is stupid. We mentioned this in the parenting class also. You can't compare one kid to the next.
How can you not?
Because we're stupid.